Okay, we have Luke Norman, the chairman and co-founder of U S Gold. Thanks for joining us, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure. Okay, so give us some of your background.
Certainly, I've been in metals and mining since around 1999. I started off with Canaccord Capital, financing a lot of junior mining companies, and one of the big things I worked out very early was good management is hard to find, and like they say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So I stepped out of the brokerage side of the business and became a founder and director of multiple junior mining companies.
Wow, so how many total now?
In total, I couldn't even count back to 2004 when I stepped outside of Canaccord, but most recently, Gold Standard Ventures, Silver One Resources, Leviathan, and U S Gold Corp.
Wow. So typically, did you take it to where it got bought out, or where did you exit on most things?
Gold Standard was a recent takeout by Orla, a Pierre Lassonde group of companies. It was a very successful exploration company in Nevada. We had the railroad project. At one point in time, we had an $800 million US market cap, but it's been a very challenging market since 2013, as we all recognize. So this US Gold Corp was kind of my attempt at doing a Gold Standard 2.0. So we initially started off with a focus on exploration in Nevada as well. We've just morphed into a pre-development company with a copper gold project in Wyoming.
Interesting. So that experience is definitely going to come in handy during the future.
Very much so.
Yeah. Okay, so talk about your team and how they're maybe distinctly different, maybe they're extra stake in the game.
So initially, and because I didn't actually finish my previous topic, I kind of slid off in a different direction, but Silver One Resources is still an ongoing exploration company. So, these things, usually you will go with a team that is centric to the style of work that you're doing. So Greg Crow over at Silver One is running a wonderful exploration and, again, pre-development company there. With US Gold Corp, I recognized that we were heading towards truly developing this copper gold mine. So I approached a friend of mine, George B, that's B-E-E, and George built big gold mines for Barrick Gold Corp for a very large portion of his career. Some of the biggest gold mines on the planet, actually, because of his expertise. So I thought there was no better man to come in and be the CEO of US Gold Corp. So in August of 2020, he came on as our CEO. And so he has then built a team around him of proven mine builders and established mine geologists. And we're moving along full steam.
Excellent. So a lot of these decisions came because you had good relationships.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Key in this industry. I know a lot of people from 25 years have been in this industry, and a lot of road shows and conferences like this.
Interesting. Okay, so talk about US Gold Corp.
Certainly. All right, so US Gold Corp's really unique, and you'll probably hear me use that word far too often as I talk to you this afternoon, but we're unique from multiple standpoints. The most obvious one is we are listed on NASDAQ, and only NASDAQ. We're not listed in Canada. We plan on changing that. We're probably going to dual list on the TSX Big Board or main exchange at some point in time, but we're not rushing off to do that right now in a bit of a solemn market. But yeah, we're listed on NASDAQ, and another little unique side to us is our share structure. So we only have about 9.3 million shares out. We trade right now, we're at all-time lows at $3.50, but generally so about a $36 million US market cap. And yeah, I'll use the term again, full steam ahead on pre-development, moving towards development of a copper gold project just out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, hour and a half north of Denver International Airport. So having a US gold and US copper on a US exchange makes a lot of sense. And obviously we'll have massive exposure to the US retail if that component ever comes back into our industry.
Excellent. So how how many locations do you have for you exploring the gold and the silver?
Okay, so our predominant, project, which is called the CK Gold Project. Formerly it was known as Copper King. That is a 1.5 million ounce reserve with a heck of a lot more upside, from a resource standpoint. It's purely copper gold with some silver dry concentrate project. Then the rest of our portfolio is exploration assets. So we have a really, really exciting district scale project in Nevada, kind of a stone's throw from the Cortez complex, Barrick Gold Corp's Cortez complex. And then we have another project called Challis up in Idaho that's got about a 300,000 ounce resource base to it, and we think it's got a lot of upside too. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, you've got some great strengths there. Talk about some potential challenges and some of your weaknesses and how you're...
Certainly, because I think that segues quite nicely from me talking about us being at all-time lows. It really makes no sense. I think the market right now obviously looks at permitting as being a real issue in North America, and rightfully so, because these governments are it's a bureaucratic mess. Everyone's afraid to make a decision. The environment is a very key topic these days. Not global warming anymore. We call it climate change. And it has a lot of people scared, and rightfully so. I understand that. But it's being politicized a large bit too. So all these critical metals and different things that are required, for any kind of normalized economy, is just all being pushed offshore. And the reality is the pollution that's generated by these mines being in other jurisdictions. We're all in the same biosphere. So if somebody's running a dirty mine in Asia somewhere versus a clean mine in North America, as a planet, are we really better off? I certainly don't think so. So, Canada and the US, good luck trying to permit a mine. Well, our project sits on state ground in the state of Wyoming. And by such, we are dealing with only state agencies. The state of Wyoming is a very resource-friendly state. It's had a bit of a tough time lately, because coal mining has gone the way of the dodo. A lot of their oil and gas industry has slowed. So a copper gold mine, which is probably, I don't think get myself in trouble here, but I think we're going to end up with the greenest mine in North America by the time this tale is told and finished and we're up in production. So we are dealing, again, just with local state authorities. They're 20 miles away in Cheyenne, Wyoming from our project, and it's just a pleasure of a state to work in. We're not dealing with Army Corps of Engineers because we don't impact any waterways of Americas. So we're staring down the barrel of probably having permits as early as first quarter or second quarter of next year. We're going to be the North America's next copper gold mine, and I think the market just hasn't seen that yet, but this massive de-risking event is about to occur, and it should unlock a lot of value in our company. A good piece of evidence towards the fact that Wyoming is a mining-friendly state. We had to apply. There were 2 key permits to get this mine up and running. There are 2 key permits, excuse me. One's called an industrial sightings permit. The other's called a permit to mine. We were awarded our industrial sightings permit about 6 weeks ago. That was press released. And that was awarded by the very same group, the Department of Environmental Qualities, that are handling our permit to mine. So encouraging for us. And I think that should extrapolate very well over to adjusting our price accordingly. Again, $36 million market cap with a 1.5 million ounce reserve. A standing case to be able to say there's at least 3 million ounces of gold endowed within this porphyry system that we have. I think we're grossly undervalued, and that arbitrage opportunity isn't going to last forever.
Interesting. Sounds like you're uniquely positioned with all those factors. What, in terms of the feasibility studies, how many are required? We hear about all these Nevada companies, and how would you compare it to some other states in terms of?
Well, again, if you're in Nevada, you're dealing with federal authorities. You're dealing with either Bureau of Land Management or Forestry. You definitely, if you're impacting anywhere going near groundwater, you're dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers, and you're talking about a 7 plus 10 year project. You're talking about a never land. We joke about it as permitting purgatory. It's a disaster. Just to get a plan of operation to drill projects in Nevada or Arizona, it's a 3-year process. And in a lot of ways, I'd like to say, it's just a process. Like with us going to get our permits in Wyoming, it's a process. But with these federal agencies, it's really not a process. What it is a water torture. So we're really well positioned being where we are. We actually have a plan of operations, ironically, on our big exploration target in our project in Nevada, Keystone. But, again, it was a lot of work and a lot of time to get us there.
Yeah, I mean, time is money. You're burning. So let's talk about that. What's the bank account look like in terms of funds and what burn rate?
Yeah, look, we're in really good shape. So we've spent somewhere, please, this is not bang on, but somewhere between $20 and $25 million that we have raised in the last 3-4 years that has gone into getting us to the point that we are now at a permit decision with the state. We've spent the hard dollars. We paid for the pre-feasibility. Pre-feasibility was done to a degree of engineering that all the remaining parts of the final bankable feasibility are sitting in a drawer in our offices. Okay, all we need is to adjust the capex numbers, because we need to know from the equipment providers, what the new adjusted prices are, because our pre-feasibility was date stamped December of 2021. So we'll come out with a bankable feasibility, but that's all been basically paid for. Obviously, all the drilling and everything that took us, the engineering that it took us to get to a point, environmental impact studies, archaeological studies, wind quality, air quality studies, all that stuff, that's been bought and paid for by previous rounds of finance. The lowest round we've ever done in this company is a $5.85 financing in April of this year. So we're still sitting on about $5.5 million in cash, and that will more than suffice to get us through to the end of 2024 if we should decide. So we don't have to, even with permits in hand, doesn't mean the gates are open. We've got to get racing to go raise, $230 odd million to build this mine. It just means we've completely de-risked it from a permit standpoint, and we can take our time in terms of raising capital to put it into production. But it will not be a heavy dilutive process. It will be debt with very small component of equity. And there's a number of ways we can attack that equity, and it's outside of just your typical share dilution. Really interesting fact about this project is our highest grade is in year 1 of production. It's actually exposed, outcropping its surface. So 130,000 ounces of gold production plus 24 million pounds approximately of copper in year 1. We can forward sell some copper, or we can forward sell some gold to cover any equity portion. The OEM equipment providers offer debt. It's just like going to Ford or Chev and buying a new truck. No one walks in there anymore with a $100,000 check. You walk in, you say, I like that. We need this crusher, and we need this grinder, and we need this flotation circuit, and they'll finance you into it. So, we're in really good shape. No debt, $5.5 million in cash, pathway to finance this operation, and really we're just sitting tight, awaiting our permit to mine.
Sounds like a coiled spring.
Yeah, great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten 80-90% of the big expenses out of the way, sounds like, in terms of all the feasibility studies and red tape.
Yep.
So, the catalyst to drive the stock is that sounds like it's good. Something's going to happen on those last 2.
Yeah, and it's not just like this end date, permit to mine. There are a lot of little boxes that get ticked along the way. Like I said, that industrial sightings permit was awarded. There are lots of little catalysts along the way that are going to generate either more tension in that spring, or is just going to have a real effect on our stock moving up. I'm very excited about copper being added to the critical metals list in the US. That really allows us, look, we can certainly talk about this as being a copper gold mine. I mean, that's exactly what it is. So, look, I think this stock is it is at all-time lows, and I think it's seen its all-time low. That's my thought.
Sure. So let's talk macroeconomically. There's a recession on the horizon. We're technically probably in it. Where do you kind of stand on, hey, how conservative do we need to be, speculative, if we do go into this recession? Gold does come down a little bit and then takes off after everything equalizes a little bit.
Well, again, I mean, we will have the luxury of being able to wait for Mr. Market if need be, and there's so much value we can create. So it wouldn't just be a holding pattern company by any stretch of the imagination. Again, I'll just use a hypothetical date. If we're awarded our permit to mine in April of next year, like I already mentioned, we don't have to race out of the gates and go raise the money to put this thing through production. There are some other really vital add-ons. For example, the economics that through our pre-feasibility that we came up with, we used $1,625 gold, $3.25 copper, and we ended up with an $800 all-in sustaining cost on producing, which is very low relative to our peer group. So with that kind of robust economics, it's already great as a standalone mine. But the very waste rock, the granite that's coming out of the ground next to the ore, is being sold by Martin Marietta next door to us. Martin Marietta are a $27 billion company. They are selling our granite, the same waste rock that we're going to have, at $20 a ton. So we're going to have 35 million tons of that sitting on surface, another $700 million of potential revenue there. The other thing that we have going for us outside of that aggregate story is the fact that a used pit could very much end up being a water reservoir and helping out the local community, which they desperately need. So these things, these bolt-ons, are just going to add to an ESG story, a green mine story, and a lot of value for our shareholders.
Excellent. Wow. You've got a darling there. Sounds like you got a real darling.
We did.
So let's look at the future. Everything goes well. 2 years, 4 years down the road, what is your typical exit strategy, merger, production that you'd like to have?
Yes. No, I get asked a lot. Like, okay, what are you guys looking for? Are you looking for another one that you can bolt on with? Because again, a base case scenario, it's hard to kind of, in a short time frame cover all of this. But what we did is we took a snapshot in time. So that's our pre-feasibility study. What we didn't want to do, we could have spent another 10 plus $15 million continuing to build a reserve. But what's a reserve worth if you don't have a permit to mine? If you can't prove to the market you can get this thing permitted. So, that was our key kind of focus, get this thing permitted. But post-permit, there is nothing forcing us to race into, final production scenario. Like I said, we can bring those other value metrics in. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement around this project, and that's probably going to generate some competitive interest, whether it be another company that's got sort of 100,000 ounce production profile that we joined forces with and became more of a mid-tier, re-rated company, or if the mid-tier producer was definitely, interested in just a bolt-on another 100,000 ounces of production per annum, great. But okay, now let's look at that green mine model that we are working towards as a company. That means the door is open to non-typical mining companies that are in the coal industry in Wyoming, for example, who might want to offset some of their challenges with green credits. So same with non-traditional sources of financing. So look, whether it be a takeover, ultimately I would love to develop this project. I've got, like I said, the preeminent gold mine builder pretty much on the planet, built the biggest stuff going. This is just a walk in the park for him. The revenues that it's going to generate, not just as a copper gold mine, but potentially as an aggregates provider. The fact that it's going to have this wonderful legacy of being a water storage facility. We believe we are working towards very closely with the state. It would just be a great project to operate. So, yes, yes, and yes.
Luke, you sound very excited.
Yeah.
That really comes through. So I think that's a big plus in looking at all these companies. There's so many to look at and decide where to put your money.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. But safest jurisdiction, wonderful state to be operating, and man, we're going to be generating a lot of cash flow in this project.
Excellent. All right. Any last words you'd like to tell?
I think I just did, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's a very cheap company right now, and I know that's kind of that wording. A lot of people don't like hearing that from upper management in a company, but it is a $36 million market cap. Even in a slightly normalized market, on a low end of the scale, would be trading at $100 an ounce in the ground in situ. That is, on our reserve, $150 million market cap. With $36 million market cap, we've spent all the dollars. It's all been done. It's all in our rear view mirror. We've got $5.5 million in cash. If you're tying onto our company, you're tying onto a company that's got nothing but upside and value proposition.
Excellent. So for people to keep in touch and stay abreast, they join a newsletter or watch the website?
Absolutely. Come to the website. Contact us directly. But our website is usgoldcorp.gold. I know that's a bit of an odd domain. People have a tough time finding us sometimes in the on the internet, Google searching us, but
the interwebs.
Interwebby, I was going to call it that. usgoldcorp.gold, and look, reach out, get in contact if you like what you're hearing, and speak with myself or George B. anytime you like.
Excellent. And then the newsletter goes out how often?
Every sort of 3 to 6 months, dependent on how things are going. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Luke, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.